What's going on, guys? Your boy Serge Hovers here. I think we finally have the review that you guys have been waiting for. I've flown it a handful of months. I've done my due diligence. I've built 5 different quads around the system, and I think it's time for the Ascent review. First and foremost, this is a cheap digital system. I say cheap. Now, there's 2 different ways you could get the Ascent, right? You can get it in the Protos Ready to Fly kit. It's at $359. The drone, the goggles, and the batteries worth the $360 price tag. Is it worth trying that as a beginner? I absolutely think so. I think if someone were to ever give me this as a person who does not fly FPV as a Christmas gift, it's pretty impressive the fact that it can do all of the things I'm going to tell you it's going to do later on in the video, just to show you which flights were really significant as far as testing goes. Just so no one's confused, I have not flown the Protos. I have flown the video system that's inside the Protos, just to clear that up. The Ascent itself can be sold separately. Now, is this something that I can say is for the beginner FPV pilot? Definitely not. Unless you're comfortable doing plug and play or soldering, this is not something I would expect a beginner to look at and be like, you know what? I'm going to try my first FPV build on the Ascent Light kit. Now, the price tag is phenomenal. I have purchased 5 Ascent Light kits in total. I have 3 drones left out of those 5. And the only reason I went for the Ascent kit was because it's a cheap digital system. It was $160 at the time on AliExpress. I think it's $130 now. And I didn't want to buy a dedicated set of goggles. You know, I just wanted to get something simple, get something that I could try with my SkyZone 04X Pros, which are basically meant to connect something HD. So I took advantage, and yeah, that's basically it. So you have the option of buying the Protos, which is definitely a beginner-friendly and entry-level drone, something that someone who hasn't flown FPV, it would be perfect for them. As far as the Ascent goes itself, I would aim this towards FPV pilots who are tinkering. I would aim this towards people who want to know what digital is like if they've only flown analog, and then maybe they have some funds to spare. So I think the system would be awesome to use on some sort of RC car. Fixed wing, of course, you've seen the awesome long range videos of those. It would be phenomenal to put this in an RC car, drift car, rock crawler, helicopter. I mean, anything on a head tracking system or some type of gimbal. Gorgeous. Given the fact that, you know, drones are flying faster and whatnot, you're trying to capture something differently, you know, as far as these systems goes, you know, these tiny RC cars and whatnot, or whatever you want to put it on, that besides a drone, it'll work phenomenally well. In that space, I think this system, like, for the price, why wouldn't you, you know? If I had the option between going DJI and getting all the stuff you need for DJI and then throwing that in like a little RC car or something like that, or a little drift car, or something that's, you know, higher quality, I definitely would not get DJI. I get $130 kit, throw that bitch in there, protect the hell out of it. It'll last forever. Throw a fan on it. Boom. Perfect for RC car people. So I think this system is applicable outside of FPV that I don't think a lot of people really talk about. It's probably already been done. I just haven't seen it, to be fair. But that's another aspect of it. And in the Ascent menus, there's like 60 millisecond fixed latency, and it says fixed wing. So, and one thing that just scares me about that is just I've seen those big, huge kilometer runs, and the only thing that's scary is that I've experienced enough latency in the system to where I'm trying to turn around, and I've made a whole 360 by the time I know I've already made that 180 back towards me. So that's something to note. But yeah, let's get back to the video. If you guys haven't seen it, I'm sure you guys have seen a ton of other videos on how people have their setup on their goggles. I went super simple Jane, okay? I just have 3M tape behind my goggles, or in front of my goggles and behind the VRX. And you can't really tell, but it's super simple, it's super clean. I ended up getting a 6-inch, 90-degree full-size mic or full-size HDMI to micro HDMI. I've changed the antennas quite a bit on the top just to see what different performance feels like. Currently, as it sits, I have an ID Crazy Skyhammer LHCP, a True RC stubby antenna, and I've been rocking that for the past few months, I guess. Basically since Sloss. Did fly at Sloss. I flew a few different locations. I flew bandos, I flew the city. I've flown a good amount with this system, all different kinds of styles, some cinematic flow, some freestyle stuff, some chasing, and overall, I think it's been quite the experience, especially being an analog pilot first. First and foremost, we do have the gorgeous and the stout Havoc 2-inch. This is by Get Bent FPV. Super huge fan of his work. He has really clean carbon, and this thing is a monster. Look how thick that is. So this is what I ran, actually one of my first packs on the Ascent system. It was a golden hour, beautiful day, no wind. Tried it for the first time, and I was actually super impressed on the quality, on the latency. Now, there is a ton of latency, but as an analog pilot, I feel like as you gradually keep flying it, you get used to the maneuvers, when to actually do those maneuvers, as opposed to if you were instantly locked in with that low latency analog system. So that's the 2-inch. Shout out to Get Bent. This is the infamous Tiny T by Jack's 3D Printing. This is badass. This is actually a Frankenstein build. Very underpowered. It's a 3S drone with EX 1404, I think at 3500 kV. This is essentially supposed to be like a very slow racer that I ended up just putting on this because it was a lighter frame. And you can't really tell in the videos. I'll show you right now. It flies like a dream. I mean, it's very smooth. I get probably 7 to 9 minutes of flight time out of this on a 3S pack. And I don't usually push it that far. I usually crash way before then. But one of my favorite quads at the moment. I think that one actually have to work on the bench because it's the ELRS messed up on it or something. I know you guys remember Knock. Knock was initially analog for its first few flights. Went to a handful of locations, flew it, and I was like, you know what? This is definitely supposed to be more of a cinematic drone. So I do have to change a lens on here. It has a little bit of smudges on there, but super, super, super clean drone. Super clean frame. And I've been working on the canopy. I'm trying to get a final file out for you guys, but I'm trying to work with best worlds of jello and heaviness, because on an analog quad, this canopy is phenomenal. On a digital quad, for some reason, it's just more jello than I need. Did some design fixes. I fixed most of the jello, but I'm still working on it. Other than that, those are the 3 systems that we have left out of the 5. I'll show you what the other 2 look like. This one here is an Acronet. Beautiful, beautiful frame. Also by Jack's 3D Printing. Most of my frames are going to be by Jack's 3D Printing. If not, it'll be by Get Bent. So this quad here is actually one of my favorite 1S running quads currently. It no longer has the Ascent kit in there. I put that in a different quad to make it more cinematic-like, which is actually not what I just talked about. But look at how this flies, man. It's the RCN Power 1002 motors that are just freaking phenomenal. They fly so fucking well, and I can freestyle. I can do whatever I want. They have a ton of floatiness, and I just love how it flies. I mean, I can do most of what I can do on analog. I can do my rewinds. I can potentially do some cinematic stuff, some juicy stuff, but it's just, I mean, clearly over time, you can tell that I've just become way more confident in the system. And I think it really shows with the flying that I've done over time. There's a lot of videos that you're going to see in here that I haven't posted on social media specifically just so I can show on here. And all of these are raw. So there are no edits besides, obviously a filter, or maybe some light color grading, which I'm not the best at. So I try to make it look as good as possible for what I have. This is the Ascent kit. I'm running these at 1080 at 60 FPS, and these are the results. I mean, there's no cuts, there's nothing. So this is truly what it looks like. I think it's a great system. At this location here, it probably sits at about, depends on the day, honestly. I guess how much network traffic there is, but I sit at about maybe 32 to about 45 milliseconds. Sometimes it's, you know, right out the gate, 32 to 35. And for some reason at night, I get like the most amount of latency. I get probably, shit, I don't know, like 45 out the gate, and then it stays there. It never reaches over 50, but I don't know. Wi-Fi definitely plays a factor. So it's one of those things where you just got to take it with a grain of salt, know your limitations, know how far you can actually go. As you can see, I'm not really venturing off towards other really yards or down the street just because I am in a concrete box right there. So I got to be mindful. So there's a nice neat little find in this particular drone here. This is the Baby Spawn 40. It's a dead cat frame, so I can get the props out of view to get this more cinematic like basically. When I went to Sloss, we were freestyling the parking lot and I ended up crashing. As you can see, the lens is pretty exposed. It wasn't this drone specifically, but it's kind of what I'm talking about here. So the middle of the lens on the Ascent camera smudged. And so basically I was like forced to have this ugly smudge in the middle. And we went out with Babu FPV and Red FPV. We went downtown. I flew this nice, cool little area. We found this statue in a structure really high up in this building. So I was gonna say, fuck it, let me test it. And so we go up there and I realize it's not as pretty as I want it to be because there's a smudge in the middle because of that scratch. So luckily I brought a Baby Ratel 2 with me and it was a surprising result. So the Baby Ratel 2 is one of my favorite analog cameras. It's what I use on 90% of my micros, if it's not an FPV Cycle Edition one. This is what I'm assuming is an IR cut. So you see the lens on the Baby Ratel 2. When you look directly in the middle of the lens, there's almost like a red hue. Can't necessarily see it on camera. I wish you could, but basically there's a red hue. What I assume that to be an IR cut. That helps a little bit with contrast, tells me that it's a more high quality lens. And so basically in my mind, I was like, okay, they're both 1.8 millimeter lenses. They both have the same thread pattern. I removed the Ascent lens. I put in the Baby Ratel 2 lens. As you can see here on the Baby Spawn, you see that red hue there. Now, is that a coating? Is that an actual IR cut? It could be either or. Nonetheless, I think it's super interesting that you can find some lenses laying around house that you probably don't use anymore because you're full digital, or maybe you just have a couple extra boxes of Baby Ratel 2s, or maybe some other, like a Caddx Ant Silver would work as well. Some of those cams on the Acronet that you saw earlier is now converted to analog, back to analog, just because I killed the Ascent on this one specifically. And I'll show you a video of that. I think I can actually pull that up now. This was a phenomenal flying quad, and I honestly might just pull out or just buy another Ascent kit to put in this quad, because man, this thing was just so, it just feels so good. I think I was rocking 45mm props here. It kind of sucks because I really want to show you guys OSD, but that 5D button that's on the Ascent VRX does not work anymore. So I'm kind of stuck at 1080p at 60 frames per second. So all the footage that you're going to see is at 1080p at 60 frames per second. Right here I crashed, and I get back up, and I had so much latency that I just went back down. So as far as latency goes, I know people are super curious about that. I think the latency that's stable throughout the range that this VTX can get. Now, this is a park that's relatively close to Get FPV in Sarasota. It's a beautiful park. There's tons of areas where you can go into. There's a little pond. As you can see, I get a little shaky here. I'm kind of testing out the range. Before we test out the range, let's get a lay of the land to see exactly where this drone is in proximity to me. This is a very nice park. Ton of people are really chill. I didn't really bother anyone. This is actually one of the first FPV parks I've ever flown at. It's not really an FPV park, more of a park, but first park I flew with an FPV drone.
And yeah, had a great time. I was very confident at this point. I was on my second pack. I actually recorded myself flying this, and it was not going to plan on that first pack. I flew that first pack. I was talking on the camera, and yeah, I wasn't recording. So this is second pack. So I'm trying to do a lay of the land here to give you an idea of how big this place actually is. Tennis courts are basically across the park from me, and I tested the limits here. There's a ton of trees in the way from where I'm at. So as I was going, I was noticing that I wasn't getting as clear footage as I wanted to. And that's one thing I really want to talk about when it comes to the Ascent. When the image actually starts to show that you're losing signal, that you're starting to go, it's really hard to get that back very quickly. What I mean by that is you'll get behind some trees, you'll get a little bit of blur, you get some pixelation, some degradation, and you'll go from that 25 locked megabytes per second and go down to about 15 or 10. And you'll be in an area where you know you get excellent signal, but the time frame in which you come back from that is quite long. And I'm not sure if that's something that's going to be addressed in the future. I'm sure it will. But if I'm very locked in and I have that little bit of jitter and it doesn't come back right away, it's almost like I was flying in 30, 35, 38 milliseconds of latency. And then now I have to fly within those 5-10 seconds of regaining that signal in that 45 to 50 millisecond range of latency. And you can definitely feel that. So I think the best thing for pilots to do when flying the system is understand its limitations. Don't fly it like you're flying analog. Don't fly it like you're flying a DJI system. This is not a system to compare or compete with those guys. This is a system that is in its baby steps. It has a lot of support in it. You probably haven't seen the Fuse system that this Ascent crew has going on, and it's pretty exciting to see that there's cheap digital now. You know, there's cheap analog kits, there's things that you can do to get around that huge price tag, and this is a very nice price tag for me, especially the fact that I like flying proximity, I like flying fast, I like flying juicy, you know, and I can do that to an extent. You know, I can do it kind of in a flowy way. You can definitely tell I'm a lot slower on digital than I am analog. My maneuvers aren't as quick and they're not as crispy. So we're back here, we're back to the range test, and we're coming across this bridge, which is completely across the park from me. This is basically at the end of the park. I got this far and I was like, you know what? If I can go this far, let me test it. Look, there's no image degradation. And once I get into about right here, I start losing it. I'm like, damn. I start glitching, and you see how it comes so quickly? Like there was no calling that. There was no.
By the way, the system does not do well at all in low light whatsoever. It's just one of those things. I think if it's lit up enough, it does really well. But if you're trying to see in the dark, nah, you're gonna start seeing some like symbols and whatnot. I don't even know how to explain it. Just imagine like the floaters in your eyes are just all around the screen. So this is an example of what low light would look like. This is with Tampa Bay Dave and St. Pete. This is locked in at 1080p, 60 frames per second. And the low light capability is not the best, but I can still see. Right here, when you get to the darker areas, you can see more of that, those eye floaters is what I call them. But I felt really comfortable. You know, I was able to see everything in front of me. There are some like blowouts once you go towards light. So I'm wondering if I can kind of combat that with some goggle settings. But I can't get into those goggle settings since that 5D button doesn't work anymore. But started doing a little freestyle, seeing how comfortable I felt. And I was doing well. I felt good. I basically went around this whole property, no issues. And I went through the street. I dove a building. I actually lost this drone later on in the session. And I'll show you guys that. I don't think that was a video issue. I think it was just a battery eject on kind of like the reversals that I do. So in the intro, you guys saw that I dove that building. That's that building that's behind me there. So I'll show you what that dive looks like raw and where it cuts out. It cuts out a couple seconds before I actually like fall out of the sky. I basically had a black screen, so it's not like analog. Digital's never going to be like analog as far as startup time goes. So it's not like if I did have a battery eject or I did have a bad battery BT 2.0 and then it loosened on that reversal, then that's a different story. But I think the battery just fell out. Not a big deal. I'm gonna show you guys what that dive looks like, and this is kind of like a little portion where I was going through the other side. I was getting some low signal at the very tail end, like more so over here. But man, look how far I'm going. I mean, this is kind of insane, you know? And when you start seeing the video blur, which it really doesn't right now, I think I was just being conservative. But I got a huge tree in front of me right there, right to my left, which I'm going to go around. And then the one to my right, which is right after that tree. Like, think about that. I am going past all of this, no issues. You haven't seen a single stutter. I think that's what was most impressive for me. I think I saw a lot of complaints about stuttering, and maybe I just joined the Ascent train at the perfect time because most of the videos you're seeing are going to be on the 16 point blah 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 firmware. I think it's 16.5 something or something like that. So this is where I lose my drone. I'm standing in like perfect line of sight of the building. I have a patch antenna and I think some other LACP. And so I'm coming up here, and I have great signal. At no point do I have any low signal bars. I dive this building. I'm like, holy shit, dude, I'm doing it. And then I go through this alleyway. I kind of lose orientation a little bit, so I do like a little trick, and then I flick back. So I think I messed up because, well, I guess I didn't mess up. I think it was just a bad BT 2.0 connector. So usually I set up for a reversal here. I was going to go back into the alley and then come back towards me. That didn't happen. I got a black screen. I was like, dude, I lost it. I don't know where it's at. Ran over there. Could not find it for the life of me. And that was drone number one gone. It's one of those things where there's a lot of quirks to it just because it is a cheap system. And I don't doubt that it'll get better over time. But the firmware that I was using was a 16 point something. So just keep that in mind. Anything that's after most of these videos is going to be 17, but there's not a lot of 17 videos. When I say 17, just the firmware itself, at which date it's updated to its latest firmware. I find it really hard to shit on a company that's trying to bring pilots into a more interesting aspect of FPV, especially this day and age. I think analog will forever be relevant in the space of FPV. Something that's visually pleasing as HD is definitely, and at that price, is definitely something that can get beginners in the door. Now, I think if that beginner sees videos like Mr. Steele and Pablo Flor and doing bando work and doing these crazy things, I think it's going to be a little discouraging going out and figuring out what the range is like, what it actually looks like in comparison to DJI, and maybe even seeing some analog setups that look relatively close or as clean, or maybe even see analog getting more range, which is very, very true. You're always going to see analog get more range than most people, but I just don't want people to set unrealistic goals for the system and then end up shitting on the system just because it doesn't do exactly what they think it's supposed to do. Of course I love freestyle, of course I love dancing in the sky, I love racing with the guys, but it gives you a different perspective. I explore a little more now. I cruise a little more now. I've done some cinematic over the water shots. I've tried to get some reactions. It's kind of cool to see exactly what's going on, and to do it in a manner that's not detrimental to my system. I don't have another set of goggles to put on my head. I don't have to switch batteries or switch SD cards or do this and that. It's awesome that I have everything in one system. There's pros and cons to it. I think a lot of people like to point out the cons more than the pros. I think it's really awesome that there's digital systems like this. I know this version 2 firmware update that came out. I've been trying to look into it a little more. All right, so let's take a look at Oscar Lang. He's the GOAT, by the way. If I'm ever unsure about anything, I just go to Oscar Lang's website and I'm just like, you know what? Yeah, this is it. So as we look, it says cross compatibility. It goes to the Draco. goes to the TJRC, Sky Zone, Walksnail, and the Beta FPV P1. So we take a look down here, and I was really curious about this because I don't believe that the Caddx Protos or the Ascent system is compatible, and I kind of confirmed it here. Which brands could be involved? So far, from the information we found on the internet, these brands and FPV systems may become compatible after the firmware updates. This is the Beta FPV P1, the Draco, the TJRC, and the Sky Zone. Nowhere does it include the Ascent. So right here says, what about Walksnail? Right now, I treat their status as unknown. My opinion, everyone's going to have their own firmware. These guys are going to have relatively the same firmware, so they can run the same system on different goggles. For the Caddx Ascent, I believe they're going to have their own firmware versions rolling out. Is that a possibility in the future? Maybe, but that's basically where this is. They're all basically using the same chipset, the Artisan chips. So this is a whole ecosystem that's trying to become one, which I think is really cool. And it makes me question, should I have gone for something that's within this ecosystem? But I'm already way too far deep into the Ascent, so I'm gonna go ahead and try and support as much as I can of what I've spent money on, because I'm not sponsored by any of these people. I've spent my own money on this, and this is a good review in my opinion. So hopefully you guys like it. So that's the only thing that kind of like, who's gonna get more support here? Who's gonna advance more in the end? And do both of these systems feel relatively the same? I don't know. I tried reaching out, tried getting my hands on a P1 system, but I couldn't. So, but relatively speaking, I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that they're all relatively the same in performance. Believe everything else is running at about 200 milliwatt. I believe Caddx is the only system only running at 100 milliwatt. Most of my testing that I've done in today's video, anywhere I've done any flying with the testing of this video, is at 1080p at 60 frames per second. One thing that does not jive well with me is that not soon after I got the system, there's a 5-directional button on here. So with this 5-directional button, it controls your menus. If you're Walksnail users or Avatar users or whatever it is that you're using, you guys understand what the menu looks like. I'll show you guys what the menu would look like here. Reason why I'm telling you this is because my button doesn't work anymore. I've seen posts and people talking about the actual button not working anymore, which is, to me, it's not a big deal. For right now, this is across the board on all my VTXs, so I'm not really sure if that's something that's messed up with this. I might factory reset this and then add the firmware back, but I'm honestly not sure what's going on with that. So I can't get into the menus, I can't change a channel, so I'm kind of stuck. If I have a bad channel for that environment, I'm kind of stuck for the day. So I definitely have all my quads with me just in case. Just because I think I'm running separate channels on a few of them, just because I was racing the Tiny T for whatever reason that day. So like I said, there's a few quirks. It's a super cheap system. Throwing some premium antennas on top definitely help add to the range. Range is not something I'm super desirable about. Most of my flying, depending on the flying for the day, is relatively close. At least a football field's worth, maybe less than that, half of that. So I don't necessarily need to go kilometers. I think people who are interested in the range, the long range portion, I don't think this is necessarily the video for you. I don't really do a lot of range tests. I don't really do long range whatsoever. It's one of those things where I think that to each his own. I'm not using the system for the range. So have I done some pretty decent ones? Here and there. Was that the purpose of it? Not really. Do I have the rig for it? Not really. I mean, the Tiny T, I can probably try it because it's a 9-minute flight time, but that's just not something I'm interested in. So I'm a huge freestyle guy. I like racing, I like proxy, I like pool areas, and I like testing what these systems can do. So I think I've done my due diligence. As far as like the places I've gone, there's a handful of places that I think were just so impressive. The system handled its own. So perfect example. This is my favorite example This is at Sloss. This is in Alabama. We found this nice, cool little bando. And this is me sitting inside of my truck while I'm flying this. I have two of the True RC stubby antennas.
Oh,
I
look
don't
at
even know
that.
what kind of a fly fish RC maybe, LHCP. But I'm going in this building. I am freestyling. I am fully just going. And the fact that I'm able to go in this building, be in this building for a while, as you can see, a little pixelation there, but it gives you an idea of what the range is like. And I'm comfortable. I'm looking at the system in such surprise because I'm expecting to see glitches. I'm expecting to see maybe some sort of super bad jumps of latency. I was probably locked in at about maybe 38. It did fluctuate in some areas, as you see later on. I try and do a nice little flicky flicky here. I end up crashing. Boom. Get down. As you can see, this is what happens when you get a low power disarm. Low power disarm, it's really hard to get back. As you can see, I'm crashing again because I can't orient myself. So finally I get a grip. I'm like, all right, let me slow down a little bit. I finally regain signal. I come back out. Feel good. Let's go back at it. So it does take a while for the signal to come back. And I'm honestly thinking about just taking low power disarm off because let's just say I'm all the way back here and I crash, right? Like, who's to say that I can't even see where I'm at? I can't even see if I'm upside down or right side up. That's the problem with low power disarm in this case. Um, but at the same token, you don't want to burn your VTX, right? So it's all situational, in my opinion. But the fact that it does all of this, I mean, I'm chilling, guys. I am cooling. I'm trying to figure out what I can do in here. I'm like, man, I think I'm just so excited that I can even be in this area. So I'm trying to do a little freestyle. I saw little gaps everywhere. I'm trying to make it all make sense. And but yeah, I was just very impressed with the whole shebang. Try to go around this. I ended up hitting. And this one actually kept recording even after the disarm, which was nice. Which you guys, I believe in the settings, you could change that as well. But you do have options. If you had a fixed wing, which I think most of the people are doing, when you see people going really, really far, I can imagine they're doing the 60 millisecond fixed wing latency to be able to get that more of a range. They're probably using a really big antenna, and it's obviously not something that's really equatable to a micro quad like this. This is a 1.6 that I'm flying. This is I think this is Venom. So
You
so
know,
comparatively, it's impressive compared to what you have experienced.
yeah, I mean, and again, like I was just flying with the 1S in these areas, like
Hmm.
on a 3 inch. And like again, they're not able to throw so much out there that you may potentially be able to get it, but these little systems are super impressive. And the fact that like the Ascent, in my opinion, is like in terms of in its ability, it's just one step down under the 1S in my understanding, not
Hmm.
in a value, but
Sure.
in like potential performance. But to see you pull this off blows my mind. Like
Yeah.
when I first saw this video, I was like, "What you doing, brah? What you whoa?" I
Well,
was blown away because you're like sitting in the car, no?
yeah, dude. I'm sitting in the car in the driver's
You were
seat.
sitting in a car, which is already a Faraday cage of its own. You're behind a fence that was pretty tall. So that's another thing.
Yep.
So your signals has to go through all of that. And then, let alone, you're like, oh, let's make it harder. Let's go inside a freaking metal building.
Literally,
Like it
bro.
makes no sense. And then you fly up and you're behind the concrete silo, which is like I don't like that video alone speaks volumes. It's an
100%.
incredible just for what it is. And like again, cheap digital
Cheap.
with this kind of potential like performance and user varies. And then the better up firmware updates. The Cadex does clearly have their hand on this, and the potential other things coming down this line. Like, it's incredible, man.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I value you saying that because you're realistically the one that would have an opinion on something like this. Because me, I'm just looking at this like, yes, it's incredible. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it's cheap, but I have nothing to compare it to. So
Mm.
that's really where this is valuable because I have seen when I was at Sloss, one of my buddies FPV Candy, he was flying and he was having some video issues, but I didn't realize that there was that much glitch involved with the Walksnail avatar system. Like it's legit glitch smearing. It's not like
It's
degradation like
different than
earlier.
walks.
Yeah.
It's what it's I do like it because it's kind of like a little bit of a mix between analog and
Mm-hmm.
digital,
Mm-hmm.
because DJI it'll just say goodnight and cut out.
Sure.
And you get no warning. Whereas with the walk snail, you're gonna get a like, hey, hey, but if it's not necessarily enough like analog where you can go, okay, crack, crack, I'm crackling up, turn around and come back and watch it clear up. It's the digital processes of it, like going, okay, you're screwing up, and if you don't turn back soon enough, or like stop, or like push up, you're gonna get a cut screen at some point.
Sure. Sure.
Um,
And
so
I
it's
think
kind of
that's
like
where
that middle line.
yeah, I think that's where they're kind of like cutting costs potentially. I think, that giving the pilot a chance to recover, just like that video earlier, it was just complete cutout in within 2 seconds, I would say. So
Yeah.
that's really hard to recover in a space. And there's been a couple times where I've flown, in my neighborhood and I go just a little bit too far and I'm in the sky, but I'm cutting out every second and a half. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting closer, I'm getting closer, I'm getting closer. Okay, now I got stable footage. So that's the
What
scary
have you
part.
ever cut out, and then because it in the fall or like in your maneuvering, you've caught yourself back? How quick is the pickup?
Pickup's very tough. Um, like when I was flying that park earlier, uh, I mentioned that the pickup was a little tough, even in beautiful areas. Let's just say I'm flying through this bando, and let's just say I had terrible footage through this whole bando. Me getting out of the bando and heading towards me, at least 5 seconds before I get stable footage again.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
five
I feel
seconds
you.
when you're going fucking 40 miles an hour plummeting towards the earth is very detrimental.
Something.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think all digital systems struggle with that, and that's not just like DJI is really good and beautiful, but like pickup is also really like it takes a second. And I've had that with my 5-inch quad where again I had someone pop up and arm their quad while on the same channel, and I got cut feed, and I was like, dude, and I forgot which button was my return to home because I have a GPS on that one, and it was a beautiful day, and I was just like, fuck it, I switched it to level, and because I knew I was somewhat flying at myself, I just there was like, this is a disarm moment because there's children around slash myself. I don't want it to hit anybody, so it's better I crash and we'll see what happens. But it was a hayfield kind of thing, so it was a softer landing than I thought. But I ended up having to walk around until I actually got signal back, assuming, praying that my batteries stay connected. And I was like, oh my
Well,
gosh.
and I think that's one thing that we should touch up on too, is that I'm not sure how many power spikes you get to where you see the cat screen and it has to reboot, but the Ascent does a very, very good job on hard crashes and keeping footage going as opposed to it rebooting. I'm not
Hmm.
sure what your experience is on that. Um,
I've had with the X, I've had a plethora of very hard crashes where it did not like that at all. But usually that meant to battery ejection.
mhm,
So the ability thereafter to have it keep on going, I wasn't able to see. Okay, if I had a hard crash,
sure.
would you keep going? Um, and then when it came to like lighter crashes and whatever, I've had like maybe where it like stopped for a split second and then like came back. It wasn't too bad where I was like, oh, okay, I crashed, bop bop, and
Sure.
like, and then to super light crashes where nothing. It was just like, shit, I forgot to put turtle mode on this. Now I have to go and flip it.
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah. No, I think it gave me a little bit of perspective being at Sloth too, because a lot of people were running digital systems. A lot of DJI guys when they would crash relatively hard. Now, obviously these are bando style drones, but they can handle the crash, but the video system itself was not taking those spikes very well, meaning reboot after
Yeah.
reboot after reboot. Now, given the fact that obviously I crash quite a bit. It's not like I don't crash. With these crashes, I'm noticing that I would say I can count probably all the power cycles on my hands out of all the packs that I've flown on the Ascent kit so far. And I crash pretty fucking hard. So obviously I killed 2 systems. Gives you an idea of how I actually fly. Um, but it's just pretty impressive that it can take so much grunt and it's so as robust as it is because the Tiny T has been through the ringer out of all of them. I think the Tiny T has probably had over 200 packs on it so far. Um, and
That's amazing.
I would say
It's
like
a
50 packs in a day on that racing day, which is insane. Um, so given the fact that it's still rocking and it's still fucking like pushing out power, and given the fact that there may be some degradation because of these crashes, that's something that I haven't touched on either. Um,
mm,
there are some signs that the 2S get bent 2-inch drone that I don't fly as much as my other drones. This probably has all of about 20 flights on it, if that. And everything else probably has over 50, 80, 100, maybe 200 packs, depending on which drone you're talking about. But I will say that the 2-inch has the cleanest feed out of everything. The 1S drone, on some of them, they're clean. Now, is that damage over time? It could be. That's not something I can realistically measure unless I fly at the same spot, at the same exact conditions, with the same everything. And that's really hard to do.
mm.
So yeah, I chalked it up to maybe there's some degradation over time during crashes. Maybe it's RF noise at the environment. Maybe it's time of day for the lighting. So there's a lot of variables to get that super crispy Ascent footage to make it look like, wow, this is really comparable. So that's something to touch on too.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, my only like bridge of comparison is the 1S, and I've had like multiple. I've run it with 1S, 2S. It can handle a bit more, but I did try it with a 3S battery, which I didn't have any particular issues, even though it technically isn't rated for that. But that's neither here nor there. And the only time,
step
like,
down regulator or something.
no, I just used the one with a very lower current draw. Like,
Oh yeah.
So it still flew. It was very.
So this was in Fort Myers. I fly with Senate Society quite a bit, and this was a very eye-opening experience about the Ascent system, just because GMASH was flying his 5-inch DJI drone, and I don't think he was at max power. I think he was probably at 25 megabits per second. Everything was working fine. There was no issues. I didn't have maybe a stutter here and there. I don't really know. I haven't even reviewed this video yet. This is one of those videos where I was supposed to post something, but I had already posted the tiny whoop footage of this place and the 5-inch footage, and all three of those have different flows, which is kind of cool. This gives you an idea of what it would feel like or look like when you're flying with another person and how much issues you would have, which, as you can see, I'm having none. If you didn't notice in the beginning where GMASH is sitting, he's in the red shirt. You'll see him every once in a while down there on the bench, but I'm sitting about 30 feet behind him near like a ledge, and you can kind of see me right there to the left. And as you can see, I'm flying this whole property. I haven't seen a single glitch. Most of this is crystal clear. Typically what you're going to want to see is some sort of pixelating, and like right there's a little bit of pixelation. That's when you're starting to notice where your low signal is. I do wish I had parameters on here. I am sorry about that. That is not something I could control. That 5D button that controls the menus is what controls whether you have OSD menu or no OSD menu in the DVR afterwards. And I guess something else to note that me and Mechanicus talked about is that this is all DVR footage. This is basically live view what I'm seeing. There's an SD card in the VRX that downloads or records what you're seeing. And as far as the Ascent goes, the Ascent VTX goes, there's no SD card slot on board, so you're not getting any onboard DVR. That would look super, super good, but regardless, I am super satisfied with how everything is running. As you can see, I am very far away from myself here. I would say very far away, but there's just a lot of obstruction between everyone and everything. So this is really where I'm like, damn, this drone, I mean, the Tiny T is always going to fly amazing, but regardless of the Tiny T, the system that's in it is incredible. And I think after I get up from here, I start doing some crazy shit. So let's go ahead and enjoy the rest of the pack.
He traded his guns for love, but he's caught in the crossfire. And he keeps waking up, but it's not to the sound of birds. The tyranny, the violent streets, deprived of all that we're blessed with. And we can't get enough, no. Heaven, if you sent us down, so we could build a playground for the sinners to play as saints. You'd be so proud of what we made. I hope you got some beds around, 'cause you're the only refuge now. For every mother, every child, every brother that's caught in the crossfire. That's caught in the crossfire. I trained my luck to know why he's caught in the crossfire. And now I'm here waking up to the sun and the sound of birds. Society's anxiety deprives of all that we're blessed with. We just can't get enough, no. Heaven, if you sent us down, so we could build a playground for the sinners to play as saints. You'd be so proud of what we made. I hope you got some beds around, 'cause you're the only refuge now. For every mother, every child, every brother that's caught in the crossfire. That's caught in the crossfire.
And the inclusion of flying with other pilots is so impressive. Like, I can fly with analog pilots, I can fly with DJI pilots, I can fly with both at the same time. I can fly with 2 other DJI pilots up in the air along with the Ascent system, and I'm still flying just fine. It's honestly pretty incredible. This past, I think it was a couple weeks ago, I went with Cigar City, went to Mango. Swell set up a track for us. He put down a track design and we all kind of set it up. There was a few DJI pilots that came over. It's a drone park. You can't really fault people for coming over, right? We weren't mad or anything. But they set up not too far from us and they launched their drones. And immediately, Analog was experiencing the digital noise. HD0 was experiencing the digital noise. Surprisingly, the Ascent system was the only one on the track throwing down some numbies. So that was actually really surprising, given the fact that when things are blasting, at least the Ascent system can do something about it. What that is, I'm not too sure. Maybe I was just perfectly in that channel range to where it wasn't affecting me. But it was truly impressive that I could fly with HD0 analog. On top of that, we have 4 pilots up at the same time. Along with that, we have 2 people behind us before everyone quit. So it's a pretty impressive system, given the fact that that's the price. I try and test the limits. I try and fly exactly how I would with analog, and honestly, I'm not too disappointed. There's been a couple times where I fell out the sky, a couple times where I got black screened on. I think Walksnail's maybe kind of known for that, HDMI issues and stuff like that. So as far as like starting up and whatnot goes, there's been a few times where I jumped the gun. There's definitely a startup time. Plug in the goggles and you get a flicker of a black screen. You see the Cadix screen, and then you get another flicker. You see the video that you're supposed to see. Goes back to black, and then it goes back to what you're supposed to see. One more flash, and then now it's stable video. So there was a few times where I've jumped the gun, and I I fucking full throttle. Now, not up, but I full throttle forward. And out of nowhere, I just get black screen. I just fall out the sky. It was actually one of the first times I went out to review it. I think this is when I realized that it had been too early for me to do a review because I didn't know all the quirks. I didn't know. I was just basically going out there and being like, whoa, I really like this HD system because it's clear, guys. Like, I didn't know enough. When I dropped from that moment, I broke a motor. It wasn't even that crazy of a crash. I think it was just like a poorly set up drone. Like, it was old motors from like a Cetus X. And I was just like, I was so excited to fly the system. So I did things properly eventually, and I eventually went out, started flying it on its own. I think I put a lot of pressure on the video, the review video, because there were so many review videos coming out. But I also noticed that a lot of these review videos did a lot of good stuff, but not exactly what I wanted to see, because I fly with a lot of people, and I didn't necessarily see a lot of that. I think a lot of these reviews are, hey, let's go to a park. Hey, let's go to downtown. Hey, let's try this, which is awesome. But I think people have different environments around them when it comes to FPV space, and I favor heavily hanging out with people and being able to be around people to be able to fly together, and not have an issue and be able to properly put your channel to be able to have a good time. So I think the Ascent does a very good job at that. I think it's almost 10 out of 10, the amount of robustness when it comes to RF noise and RF signal, because I've done some pretty cool feats. I've gone to bandos. I say bandos like it's been a lot. I think it's like one bando and one construction site. But I had a great time. There's no limitations. I've taken it on the racetrack. I've taken it downtown. I've dove with it. I've broken one. I lost one. I've built 5 quads around it, right? So there's starting to be a little bit more experience in the pile. And I feel like at this time, it's a good time to start talking about it, because there's going to be some big updates coming out, I would assume, especially with this new firmware that rolled out not even a month ago that I didn't know about till now.
We're racing, boys. No, this is not to be taken serious at all. I don't ever expect this system to be on a racetrack, but since I already had the quads there, it's running analog all day, and yeah, this is me trying my best to get some clean laps. I definitely did have some clean laps. I'm just gonna kind of show you guys what a consistent, stable video would look like. Now, one thing to note in the racing scene, it's typical and standard to be 25 milliwatt all across the board. Depending on your channel, as soon as you pass that timing system, it calls your name out. So in this case, it was doing a good job calling my times. On analog, I got about high 18s, low 19s for the day, and I'm a super slow racer, so don't make fun of me. But on the Ascent, I was about 4 seconds slower on my best run. Now, where is my best run? I don't know. I had like 50, 60 packs this day between analog and the Ascent. So as you can see, I'm starting to get cleaner, but the thing with the Ascent on the racetrack is it can be done, but you're not going to be breaking any of your old records or doing any personal bests. It's just fun. It's fun going through gates with every type of system that you have. It doesn't have to be a true, racer system. I'm not planning on doing anything competitive, but it's cool because the guys have something like this in place, and we always have a good time out there. And on top of that, I wasn't disturbing anyone. That was my biggest concern. I don't like disturbing people when we fly, and I made sure everyone was cool, because some people don't speak up, and that's a huge problem in FPV. When someone doesn't speak up, whether that's channel changes or getting blown out the sky or whatever it is, you have to have a good experience. So that's what I was hoping for the guys, and everyone said they had no issues. And once those 2 DJI pilots showed up, they were having some issues on the video side, but the Ascent system, it was doing its thing. I can definitely fly the track. It would be much more enjoyable if I was just flying normally and cruising, which I did do. I do a little bit of freestyle, did my little thingy thing. But you can see there are some areas of glitches and some static, so it's not like I'm making the system out to be this juggernaut, but for the time and for what you're seeing, this is completely flyable in a non-racing setting. Like I said, do not take this racing footage seriously. This is more so for shits and giggles, just to see how it would do with other pilots. And as you can see, it does a pretty good job. This is a good example of a good test. It was a silly test. I didn't really expect much out of this test. I was here with Red FPV and LaBelle, and or Lehigh. Sorry about that. And I was just flying the parking lot, see how far I can realistically fly without any breakup. I decided I wanted to try going around the full building. I knew it was going to drop out of the sky. That's why I stayed kind of low. Just wanted to see what it was like. If it flew around the whole building, I would have been mind blown. But I got about maybe a quarter of the way there. Then I slid out, walked around, and there was this old guy. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Flying drones." He's like, "Where is it?" And he got a little startled here. I didn't mean to scare him. But no harm, no foul. He was like, "Holy crap, that thing's freaking small." This is a tiny T that I'm flying here. And yeah, he was cool. He was like a photographer that was in the area. You know how to show out a little bit while I was there, even though he can't see what I see. It's cool. Um, so he was like, "Hey man, can I take some pictures of you? This is really cool. I've never seen it before." I'm like, "Yeah, why not?" So good little interaction there, and we had a good time. So I spent the next few packs up here, and then I met up with Red in the back afterwards. And yeah, he was just chilling, doing his thing. I decided to park it and talk to him. I am sure I am missing a ton of things. This video took me quite a long time to make. And yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed what I talked about. There are a few things that I think are very important that I touched on. I think this kind of showcases what the system can do. So, you know, you can make your thoughts. You can say it's a bad system. You can say it's a good system. You can say it's worth it. You can say it's not worth it. I like it for right now. I think it's awesome that I can fly digital on the same goggle. I'm kind of glad I didn't have to break the bank to be able to get it in the air like this. This is Nock that I'm flying here. This is a 1S quad, and I think it looks great. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I don't know what you guys expect out of a $130 system and a $35 VTX, but this is pretty freaking insane if you ask me. So if you guys have any other questions or anything else in the future, I'm sure I'll be doing videos like this again. I just need to know what you guys want and what you guys are looking for. I think this is pretty early on. I think a lot of people have a lot of questions about this, and I believe that this is one of those videos that's going to stick around for a little bit. If anybody has any true interest in it, this is the video that you need to watch. So if someone, one of your friends, anyone has any type of quarrels against it, show them this video and tell them, hey, I think it's starting to become alive. I think it's starting to become a thing. Now, let's go back to the beginning and let me tell you again, this is not to compare or to compete with DJI or any of the digital systems that are now coming about. This is just for strictly a budget digital system so people understand what they're getting into when they're buying something like this. And that's about it. It's Surge Hovers. I appreciate it. Watch the rest with some chill music. I'll see you next time.
see people going really, really far. I can imagine this is a full pack. I mean, yeah, I crashed a few times.